Similar, okay. Let us revise. We have question 1. We are told, without using mathematical tables or a calculator, evaluate. So we are to evaluate. It is given as 5.4 divided by 0.025 times 3.6. So there are many ways of working out this particular question, but I've chosen to convert all these denominator decimals, into fractions. So we start with 5.4. These are decimal. As a fraction is 54 over 10. Why over 10? Because we have one decimal place here, so it will be over 10. We have 0.025. As a fraction, it will be 25 over 1000 because of the 3 decimal places. And we have 3.6, so as a fraction, it will be 36 over 10 because of one decimal place. And then we work out the denominator part, which is 0.025 times 3.6. We can write it as 25 over 1000. By now we know where 25 over 1000 is coming from, because if we convert 0.025 as a decimal to fraction, we are going to have 25 over 1000 times the 3.6 is the same as 36 over 10. So if we multiply 25 by 36, we end up with 900, and 1000 by 10, we end up with 10,000. So 900 divided by 10,000, the two zeros are going to cancel. We end up with 9 over 100. So this is the denominator part. For the numerator part, we had 5.4, of which as a fraction is 54 over 10. So usually we divide this numerator by denominator. So 54 over 10 divided by 9 over 100. If we divide two fractions, we are going to multiply this first fraction by the reciprocal of the second fraction. So the reciprocal of 9 over 100 becomes 100 over 9. So it will be 54 over 10 multiplied by 100 over 9. So in that particular case, you can divide this one 0 and 0 will cancel, by 9 1 by 9 6, and 6 times 10 we are going to end up with 60. Question 2. We are to express 1728 and 2025 in terms of their prime factors. And hence we are to evaluate the cube root of 1728 divided by the square root of 2025. So the cube root of 1728 divided by the square root of 2025. So let us express these numbers given in terms of their prime factors. So 1728, we are going to look for the smallest number possible, which can divide 1728, and we can divide it by 2 because it is an even number. So 1728 divided by 2 we end up with 864. Again, 864 is an even number, can divide it by 2 end up with 432. It is an even number, by 2 end up with 216. When you divide 216 by 2 end up with 108. 108 divided by 2 end up with 54. 54 divided by 2 end up with 27. 27, this one is an even odd number. Now we cannot divide it by 2, but we can divide it by 3, which is 9, and 9 by 3 is 3. So we can come here and say 1728 is the same as 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, which is 2 power 6, times 3 times 3 times 3, which is 3 power 3. So this is how we express 1728 in terms of prime factors, as 2 power 6 times 3 power 3. So 2025, this one is an odd number, and then the smallest number which can divide 2025 is 3. So if we divide 2025 by 3, we end up with 675. 675 can also be divided by 3, we end up with 225. 225 can be divided by 3, we end up with 75. 75 can be divided by 3, we end up with 25, and 25 can be divided by 5, end up with 5. So in terms of their prime factors, or in terms of the prime factor of 2025, it is 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 5 times 5, which can be summed up as 3 power 4 times 5 power 2. So at this point, we have our prime factors. Then this brings us to now the cube root of 1728. So if it is the cube root, we consider the powers of these prime factors and we divide this power by 3 cube root. So it was 2 power 6. We divide this power, which is 6, by 3. And if we divide 6 by 3, we are going to have 2. So it is the same as 2 power 2 here. And then times 3 power 3. When we divide this power by 3, we are going to end up with 3 power 1, or just 3. So the cube root of 1728 will be 2 squared times 3. It will be 2 squared times 3. And then remaining the square root. So if it is the square root, we divide the powers by 2. The square root of 2025, it was 3 power 4 times 5 squared. So if we divide these powers by 2, 4 divided by 2, we are going to end up with 2. And 2 divided by 2, we are going to end up with 1. So it will be 3 power 2 times 5 power 1. Again, we take into consideration the numerator part, which was the cube root of 1728. By now, we have it here as 2 power 3 times 3. And the denominator part, which was the square root of 2025, we have it as 3 squared times 5. So if 2 power 2 is multiplied by 3, we are going to end up with 12. Remember, 2 power 2 is 4, and 4 times 3 is 12. And 3 squared is 9, times 5 is 45. So we are going to end up with 12 as the numerator part and 45 as the denominator part. If we take 12 divided by 45, we are going to simplify. 12 by 3 is equivalent to 4, and 45 by 3 is equivalent to 15. So our final answer becomes 4 over 15. 4 over 15. This brings us to the other question. And the other question reads, Juma left his home at 8:30 a.m. Juma left his home at 8:30 a.m. He drove a distance of 140 kilometers and arrived at his aunt's home at 10:15 a.m. Determine the average speed in kilometer per hour for Juma's journey. We are being told Juma left his home at 8:30 a.m. He drove a distance of 140 kilometers and arrived at his aunt's home at 10:45 a.m. At 10:15 a.m. We have to determine the average speed. So how do we get speed? Speed is distance over time. This is the formula. So we need to have the distance. The distance is just indicated here. He drove a distance of 140 kilometers. So we already have the distance 140 kilometers. But remaining the time now. So for you to get the time, we usually take the arrival time minus the departure time. Remember, he arrived at his aunt's home 10:15 a.m. So 10:15 becomes the arrival time, and he left his home at 8:30. The time when the journey started was 8:30, so we call it the departure time. So if we take 10:15 as the arrival time minus 8:30 as the departure time, we are going to end up with 1 hour and 45 minutes. Remember, 15 cannot subtract 30, so we usually borrow 1 hour from 10. This brings us to 1 hour is equivalent to 60 minutes, and 60 minutes plus 15, we end up with 75. 75 minus 30 becomes 45. So we are remaining with 9 hours here. So 9 minus 8 is 1. So 10:15 minus 8:30 a.m. is the same as 1 hour and 45 minutes. So 45 minutes as a fraction is 45 over 60, which can be simplified to 1 and 3 over 4 over an hour. So 1 and 3/4. So how do we get the speed now? If we have the distance and the time. Speed is distance over time. The distance is 140 kilometers and the time is 1 and 3/4. So if we change this 1 and 3/4 into improper fraction, we are going to have 4 times 1, which is 4. 4 plus 3, we are going to have a 7. So it is 7/4. So 140 divided by 7/4 will now be the same as 140 multiplied by the reciprocal of this one, which will be 4/7. So by 7, 1 by 7, 20. 20 times 4, we are going to end up with 80. So our speed becomes 80 kilometers per hour. 80 kilometers per hour.